I could have been one of the kids in the ER. I could have been on this show.
A kid walked into the staff lounge/nurse's office with a phone charger completely plugged into his heel. And he said, "Hey, it won't charge my phone." Ugh. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Youth Group Chronicles. Joining me, I have a new co-host, Cole Clark. Welcome to the show, Cole.
What up, y'all?
Let's kick this thing off. All right. So Zach Hartman sent in this story. He said, "We were playing sardines at youth group and couldn't find a kid." He said, "No joke. We were looking for over an hour and we were calling for him. We thought he left, but his car was still there, so we were at a loss." At this point, everyone is in like the open space that we play games in our church. And we just said, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to let him die here at this point.
Oh, shoot.
Right at that moment, the kid comes crashing down through the drop ceiling with a cloud of dust and debris. Yo. The kid's face was like busted. So he must have smashed the floor. His face was all busted up. They rushed him to the hospital. He said, thankfully, the doctor said he would be fine, but he had to get a few stitches. But he said, to paint the picture for you, I don't know if you've seen The Office, but picture in the episode where Dwight started the fire and Oscar just falls down through the drop ceiling. He said that's exactly what it looked like. All right. Alan Johnston wrote in. He said, "One night for youth group, we had to make 2 trips to the ER. The first kid during our hangout time was playing ultimate frisbee and face planted into a solid metal volleyball pole." Ouch. The second one, as dumb teenage boys do, jumped on the back of a truck of another kid in the youth group, and that kid, being dumb himself, peeled out of the parking lot, flinging the first kid onto the gravel parking lot, and that kid was also taken to the ER in the same night.
2 in the same night. I'll tell you this. Anybody that has, if there's any major incident, we're not even talking about an ER. We're just talking about an incident during youth group, during a youth event. It is like a night stopper. Like if someone gets injured like that, it's like at all hands on deck. Things have gone wrong. Abort. This man said twice. And he said we didn't just like, it wasn't like, here, take him down, put a Band-Aid on. I was like, we're going to the ER. Like I feel like
it sounds pretty serious.
I want to hear the conversation with the parents. Like, oh yeah, don't worry, we had another kid too go to the ER as well.
Yeah, your kid wasn't the only one. Or could you imagine like they already sent the first kid and they're like, oh great, here we go again.
Yeah. Dual calls back to the church.
Micah Coverstone, he said, "1 year into my ministry, we had a boys lock-in. The next morning around 9 a.m., we had gone outside and we were basking in the nice weather. Some of the boys got on one of the older boys' car and asked if we could get a picture. Oddly enough, everyone's phones were inside at this point. So I ran inside and got my phone for the picture. When I came back out to find the car on the other side of the parking lot, and one of the boys was like laying flat on the pavement. And so he was on his back on the pavement. The boy who owned the car had gotten inside the car, driven 2 laps around the church at full speed. The second lap, he rounded a corner too tight, and the youngest kid slid off the back of the car, hit his head as he landed. I was scared to death that he was dead and I was going to lose my job. Stupidly, I drove him to the ER instead of calling 911. He couldn't see for the whole ride, and he was crying because he thought he was going blind." His grandpa was the police chief and came to the hospital to 1, check on him, and 2, question the boy who was driving. The kid felt super bad. The craziest part was the kid that got hurt. It was his very first time at youth group, and he was even going to be baptized the next week, and he got saved the week before. His mom ended up being really nice about it, and the kid ended up getting baptized the next week. God. So it ended up being okay.
Yo. Dude, what is up with y'all having your youth kids hopping on the back of vehicles?
Youth group is like the age when they get their license too.
Right, yeah.
So they probably like feel 15. All nice, driving in with their car, cool. Showing off for the guys.
We have this girl we know, Emily. They were in the parking lot, and I was like, dude, I'm totally going to crawl on their roof, like just to be funny. And they started speeding around the parking lot. Thankfully, I didn't fall off, but...
You may have ended up just like one of these kids.
I may have ended up. I could have been one of the kids in the ER. I could have been on this show.
Pastor Cody would have written in and been like, yeah, there was this kid. He died in the parking lot sliding off a car. Ben Armstrong said, on a missions trip to Washington, D.C., we went to a train station and we split into 3 groups and went around with the goal to have a conversation with a homeless person and offer them a meal. I take my group away from the hustle of like the main station area and we cross the street and I hear people yelling, and I turn to see people pouring out of the train station in panic. Some lady who wasn't in the station runs by me and says, "I don't know what's happening down there, but I would run if I were you." So I replied, "Look, 2/3 of my students are down there. Leaders are down in that train station, and my wife is too. Like, I'm not going anywhere." He said he connected with the 2 other groups who were luckily not in the train station. And one leader says a lady had run by him screaming, "I saw a gun." The guy had a gun.
I saw a gun.
Yeah, this is in Washington, D.C. too.
Yeah, terrible place to have a gun.
Basically, their contact for the trip was in the train station meeting with her supervisor, and she calls to them to wait outside to the whole group. And she said, "The police are investigating a shooting down here. No one can leave." So basically, we had just had to sit and wait.
Right.
We had no idea how long it would take. A few minutes later, she calls back to tell us they are letting everyone go. There was no shooting. A bike tire had popped, and everyone overreacted.
Dude, a bike tire.
Everyone comes pouring out thinking they're going to get shot.
A bike tire. Imagine just sitting there thinking like, dude, there's a gun. It went off. There's a shooting. And all my freaking 1/3 of my kids are
literally down in there.
Dude.
Can't get in there. And then also the lady runs by and says she saw a gun.
I saw a gun.
That's
like everybody who overreacts ever.
I saw 5 guns.
I saw a gun.
I saw a gun. Yep. Sue Quippers said, "On a house building mission trip in Mexico, we were delayed at our site due to rain. The other teams around us had left, but our kids were determined to stay and finish laying the foundation. By the time we left, it was dark." Yeah, that's pretty dedicated. It was dark and quite late. And while traveling down the only paved road for miles, we were stopped at a roadblock put up by the Federals. Our bus was boarded by 2 very angry-looking men with automatic rifles in hand.
Nice.
Apparently, they suspected us to be gun smugglers. They didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Spanish. It was a true standoff. Fortunately, just about the time we figured we were all going to a Mexican prison, our local camp guide found us and talked the officials into releasing us, as well as all our construction gear.
Dude, like if there was ever a time that you wish you would have listened in Spanish 1 and 2, it was like in that moment.
In that moment that we're here for good reasons. That would be scary though.
Dude, honestly.
Zach Burke said, "Once I had to kill a scorpion that was on a kid's face at camp." End of story.
That's it.
I have a lot of questions about that.
Me too, dude. Like the first reaction was like, nah, we're not going to remove the scorpion. We're going to kill it on his face. Like,
how
no
did
matter
it get
the
on his
cost.
face?
Yeah, that too.
I don't even think they like climb like a
Dude, I
bug.
don't know. I don't even understand. Was it at night? Was it in the day?
Maybe he was sleeping.
Yeah, that's what I'm
maybe
saying.
in a tent
like,
or something.
Like fellow
Could you imagine just grabbing
like,
the shoe and just smashing the kid in the
Dude,
head?
heck no. I would be mad even if there's a scorpion on my face.
I'm pretty sure you could just brush it off, but
Dude,
I don't know. Maybe I'm naive to
like,
how scorpions work.
We're gonna hit him in a way he never thought he'd be hit.
This is 2 upstate New York guys. Apparently, have not been out west where all these scorpions live. It shows.
Apparently, that's one of the benefits of living in New York.
Yes, one of the benefits for sure.
The only benefit. No, I'm just kidding.
Ed Ernest said, "I had a college student disciple who's now a leader break off his front teeth on a chair while ducking a pillow thrown by a middle school girl. Ouch. The ironic part is the unlucky young man was a competition bull rider and a couple oral surgeries later, and he's fine." Not sure how that's ironic, except maybe he's had his teeth knocked out before.
I think that there's not much irony in that other than the fact that maybe, and out of all the places he could have lost his teeth, he was on a chair.
Youth Group. Yeah, as he's a bull rider.
Yeah. I guess that's the irony in all this.
Brandon Roth said, "A kid walked into the staff lounge/nurse's office with a phone charger completely plugged into his heel. And he said, hey, it won't charge my phone. Ugh. He had jumped off the top bunk onto the charger, and it was completely in his heel like it was plugged into the wall. Mind you, this was completely by accident, but the kid took full advantage of the chance for a dad joke.
Dude, this kid is like A1 comedian from this moment on for the rest of his life. Like, that's going to be in somebody's comedy skit here soon. Like, hey, homeboy literally took a charger to the ankle.
Oh, I don't know why he just didn't pull it out there.
Dude.
He hobbled down the hall or however far.
Dude, this kid is the class clown. That's all I got to say. Like, I already know his whole full personality. Whoever told this story, I know who that kid is. I've never met him, but I do know who he is.
Theron Cabrera said, Before I was a pastor, I was a volunteer on the team, and our youth pastor gave the green light for a weekend camp out that I could take some senior boys on. 3 guys came, and Friday we arrived to set up camp. We have a great night by the fire. The next morning, we woke up to meet the youth pastor for a brisk morning hike, and at the end of the hike, we'd have like a man talk. All these things go according to plan. We start our journey back to the car, and not 5 minutes into the journey home, one of the boys slips on the sharpest, jagged rock that he could find on this trail, bashes his head against that rock. And I knew nothing of first aid. I didn't even have a first aid kit with me. Our pastor was a lifeguard. He knew a little bit, but we were on a mountain.
Lifeguard. Yeah. That's going to help. That's going to help right now.
Here's some mouth to mouth. But we were on a mountain with no cell service to make things worse. Long story short, the boy was bleeding from his head, starts to lose vision. We had to run 2 miles to the road. Then we had to wave down a car to go to the station. I guess it was like a gas station or something, to sound the siren to let the volunteer first responders know something was wrong. I cried. I thought I killed a child. He's alive today with a scar and a good story.
Apparently. Some kind of story.
Andrea Rapp says, I had just started at a church and went on an already planned mission trip to Colorado Springs, which ended up in a mice-infested cabin.
Ooh.
27 mouse souls were lost in 5 days. We put glue boards everywhere. The sounds were awful.
27?
27 mice they killed.
Heck no.
In
How
5
many
days.
days were they there?
5 days.
5 days? I'm there for 1 day. I'm there till I find out and I'm gone. And I'm getting a refund.
Ellis said, I knew a youth pastor who once did a sermon illustration on being lukewarm.
Dude, time out. Sermon illustrations are a youth pastor's number one way to lead to an instant regret and failure. Literally. At any point of time. I've seen so many failed sermon examples. That could be its own podcast. Failed sermon examples.
I believe it. She said, I knew a youth pastor who once did a sermon illustration on being lukewarm.
Oh, goodness.
His big idea was to boil water on stage and mix it with a bucket of ice water and then pour it over his head to illustrate that it had zero effect. Well, he tried to boil the water in a glass container on stage and didn't take into consideration that putting glass over a burner was a recipe for disaster.
Goodness.
The glass bowl exploded on the stage.
Dang.
And I ended up with glass in my hair on the front row.
Dude. Honestly, that would have been me. I didn't even know that would do that with glass.
I didn't know that either. I guess it's not as much of a mistake as like...
See what I mean? Like I'm sure he felt when he walked up, he's like, this is going to be impactful. And I guess it was.
It was, yeah, he set off a bomb in the church.
They'll never forget what lukewarmness will bring into your life.
Glass all over the front row.
Potential death.
All right, one last one here. Andrew said, I was showing off at disc golf with a couple guys at camp. I threw the disc super hard. I already know where this is going.
Yep.
It flew through the air just as a girl turned the corner and hit her directly in the face, splitting her eyebrow wide open. I felt absolutely terrible. Ooh. That sounds like it's a youth pastor showing off for a couple of other leaders.
Yeah, like too much strength.
I already just picture Pastor Cody oh my goodness, whipping a basketball at a kid's head stories. Or something.
It all went bad with I was showing off. Like right there. Literally. Was over.
I think there was a kid at our youth group. Didn't they? I don't remember how it happened, but they smashed their head into it was what's it like cinder block wall.
They had a dodgeball tournament, and I can't remember how it quite happened, but it went something like gets hit with a ball, and they put a dent in the concrete wall with their head.
It's still there.
Yeah,
you can go look at this dent.
You can still see. And what's worse about all this is like we had a church. Like this is like one of the first events we were doing together, like in a youth, like, hey, we're going to bond. We're going to have a great time. And it just so happened that it was like one of their people, like one of their like leaders that just puts a dent in our wall. And like, I haven't seen him since. Like
he's probably unconscious somewhere.
It was a girl.
She's probably unconscious somewhere. That explains
Apparently
it.
hard-headed. Put a dent in the wall. Yeah, dude. I feel like those things never go right. I've seen water balloons thrown. Oh, dude. Across the parking lot, like harmless. We're just going to hit someone. And it would just be like this circumstance where the phone is in the hand, water balloon just hits the phone right on the cement. Just crazy stuff like that.
This was kind of like a dark episode, it seems like. No, just going through.
Like no one really had a crazy story. It was just
like, oh yeah, this kid,
this kid got hurt.
ER.
This kid got hurt. This kid, you know what? Honestly though, that's pretty much usually how it goes.
Yeah, this is a classic youth group right here.
It
Youth
is.
ministry in a box.
Welcome.
All right, Cole, thanks so much, man, for joining me.
course.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Again, if you have a story that you would like to send in that you would like featured on the show, email it to ygchronicles@gmail.com. Again, check us out on Instagram, TikTok. We're posting all kinds of stuff there, so you might just be featured there as well if your story is really good. So thanks again for listening. Cole, thanks again, man.
Of course.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Youth Group Chronicles. If you have a story that you would like to send into the show, we would love to hear it. You can email us at ygchronicles@gmail.com. Next, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know every time that we drop a new episode of the podcast. Also, up here is a video that YouTube thinks you're going to like, so definitely check that out, and thanks for watching the show.